Hi, I'm David Harry, and in this video I'm going to be doing a bunch of tests between a bunch of shotgun microphones, and they'll be the AKG D900E, the Sony C74, the Sennheiser MKH60 and the Sennheiser ME6. Okay, so the point of this video is kind of like, it's really just a curiosity test, to be honest, because I've got two microphones which you can't find that much information on the internet, let alone on YouTube. So I thought, well, I'll do something with them myself. Anyway, so to kick it off is this microphone, and this is unbelievable. Right, it's an AKG D900E, and it's a very old like shotgun, but interestingly it's a dynamic shotgun. Now I've never come across a dynamic shotgun before. It's the first one I've ever used, let's put it that way, and I've never really read up much on dynamic shotguns either. Now this is meant to be like, you know, like super duper directional, so this is a very tight cardioid directional pattern on it, and this is meant to be for mid to long distance recording, but we'll see about that. The one thing that I did find on it was some references on one of the forums, and some chap had referred to it as maybe it was Darth Vader's lightsaber. Now I could well believe that, because it's a bit scuffed on the end there, so it looks like it's been through a few Jedi wars. Anyway, so I'll test that. And then this is the other one, and this one looks a little bit more conventional, but it kind of does look like still a little older. I mean, this actually, I don't know when this came out, but this is the Sony C74. And this one kind of looks maybe like it should have been in the Radiophonics workshop or something, the BBC Radiophonics. This one probably predates, it actually doesn't, but it looks like it predates it. I mean, in fact, this might have been something that was on the Ark, I don't know. Anyway, so the thing is, it's these two mics really that I'm going to be looking at. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to test it with this mic here, and this is a Sennheiser MKH60, and just for a more modern microphone as well, and more of an affordable kind of like modern shotgun, I'll be using the Sennheiser ME6. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to test each one of them in a specific way. I've got a mic stand here that I'll mount the microphone on itself, and then I've got another mic stand here, and this is just to tell me a start-off position, and that's where I will put the end of the actual tube there. So I'm not entirely sure where's the most sensitive part of the tube for the element inside, but just to keep it all fair and equal, I'm going to start the end of the tube there, and then I'll start the test after I've lined up each of the microphones. Now what I've also done, I've got a tape measure on the floor here, so I'm going to start it off at like 1 foot away, and that's the distance where I'm going to set the actual gain inside the camera. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to step back to 3 feet, then to 6 feet, 9 and 12. And I'll just make up some blurb as I go along. It's just to give an idea of the sound and sensitivity. And what I'll also do, I think at each stage I'll do a count test as well. So all the count tests will be at the end. And like I say, so from 1 foot away, I'll set me input. And to be dead fair, what I'm going to use is the Saramonic Smart Rig to do all the preamping and the powering. And yeah, that's probably about it technically as far as the test is concerned. So essentially what I'll do, when it goes in, I'll try and get it as best as possible to optimum as I go in at 1 foot. And then what I'll do, when I go into post, the only leveling I'll do is like, if they don't sound level enough at the 1 foot mark, I'll just basically rebalance in post a little bit at that point. But after that, I won't be rebalancing nothing. Definitely no EQ, definitely no compression, no normalizing, nothing. So I'll try and get them as much as is as I can. Okay, I know this has been a fairly lengthy intro, but it was just to explain the actual point of the test and to show these two weird microphones. And I'm fairly sure the test is going to be boring, the way I normally am, just chattering and yammering on, but it could be interesting for people who've heard about these mics and want to know something about them. Okay, so I'll get on with the test. So this is the AKG D900E. To start off with, I'm a foot away from the tip of the tube. And this microphone has been described as ultra directional. So I'm assuming that's just some super duper cardioid thing that's going on with this microphone. I think initially when it was first brought out, it was for the likes of sports and maybe certain theatre type work and stuff like that. But like I said before, I've never come across one of these. I don't know anything about them, so this will tell us something to do with the tone and whatnot. Okay, so like I say, 1 foot away. So this is now the 3 foot marker for the AKG. And what I'm doing, I'm kind of like going to be dead fair with all the mics and go straight right down into the tube and whatnot. And all these mics that I'm going to test are at least, I think, kind of like a very tight kind of, well, not ultra, but maybe super or something, or there might be a couple of hypercardioids in the mix here. But what it is basically, they're all designed to go straight down the middle anyway, and they're all designed to, you know, maximize like the rejection of reflections or side sounds and whatnot. Yeah, so okay, this is 3 feet away on the AKG. So I'm now at the 6 foot mark for the AKG. And again, this was touted as being medium to long distance. Now when it says medium to long distance, I'm not entirely sure what that means, because I've not seen any kind of like instances of like, you know, measurements or distance for that. So I'm assuming this is going to be medium distance. I mean, if it was designed for sports and whatnot, I don't know, maybe like medium might be something like 15 feet or something, because it says long distance. This most certainly isn't long distance, but again, I'm at the 6 foot mark, and it's the AKG. So now I'm at the 9 foot mark on the AKG, and again, you know, it's meant to be medium to long distance, and this shouldn't really be taxing it as far as distance is concerned. Plus, it's not actually having to compete with any other sounds here. It's only my voice, and obviously there's reflections because it's a corridor and whatnot, which is unfortunate, but I don't have any other space with such a long distance, which is like not quite as reflective as the corridor. So again, this is the AKG at 9 foot. So now I'm at 12 foot with the AKG. I would imagine anywhere between 6 to 12 foot, the reflections in the corridor are probably going to start coming into play with all the microphones. I mean, I know the MKH60 is fantastic at being that, you know, directional and whatnot, and it's got superb rejection back and side. That mic I've used a lot, so I kind of know these things about that mic and the ME6 I know dead well. This microphone, I don't know how far, you know, this is actually going to be rejecting the side and the back. Although this is ultra directional, so hopefully, yeah, it's still picking me up okay. Anyway, so again, 12 foot, and it's the AKG. So now onto the Sony, and again, this is first off 1 foot away. I've kind of got the level going into the camera as optimum as I can get it. And the basic description that I can find on this is that it's a super unidirectional electret condenser. Because the information on the internet is like a little bit thin on this microphone. So basically it is an electric condenser. So I'm assuming that maybe what it's doing, it might be stepping down to 48 volts to an electric voltage. I'm not entirely sure. I couldn't quite work that out here because of the lack of information on it. Yeah, and it says like super unidirectional. So I'm gonna go for super cardioid on this. Okay, so this should be enough of like a talk at the 1 foot stage. I'm now at the 3 foot stage with the Sony, and you know, this kind of distance now it shouldn't be taxing it at all. In fact, this kind of distance, I'd imagine from here up to 6 foot shouldn't tax any of the microphones that I'm going to be testing, because they are all like a form of cardioid. And I think minimum is going to be like kind of super. I mean, to be honest, when things say super hyper and super duper hyper or hyper, whatever the language is, I kind of always test them in the field first before, like, you know, I kind of listen to like whatever blurb that they come out with. Because quite often some of that can be very spurious. Anyway, so yeah, this is the 3 foot mark with the Sony. I'm now at the 6 foot mark on the Sony. And I think, yeah, this is, again, this should be okay, this distance. Like I just said, you know, for all the microphones, this type of distance should be okay for all of them. Although, like I say, the room reflections and whatnot are going to be something for them to contend with. But again, you know, whilst not being an ideal scenario, it is going to be a level playing field, and they'll all have to play into it themselves as well. So that's maybe another kind of test that we'll get out of this, the rejection on the front facing towards me. Okay, so I'm now at the 9-foot mark with the Sony, and what will be interesting about this is just to see how far this is going to pick up. Another thing about the Sony as well, it's actually got 3 settings on the barrel, and that's like, I think it's M1, M2 and V1. Now basically what they all are is just variations on like things like filters. So what I've done, I've just left it on the first setting, which I'm assuming doesn't apply any kind of shelving whatsoever. So this is, I mean, because I had a quick listen back before I started the recording on the Sony, and that was the setting that was going to be the most sensitive as well. So I've left it on the first setting, which was M1. So I'm now at the 12-foot mark for the Sony. And I think maybe 12 feet might be actually kind of taxing it a fair bit for a couple of these microphones. Because under ideal conditions you wouldn't be this far away from your sound source, but this is a test for distance and sensitivity and EQ and clarity and whatnot, and rejection for all like the ambience within the corridor. So yeah, you know, 12 foot on the Sony. So I'm now onto the Sennheiser MKH60, and I'm at the 1 foot mark to start off with. Now this is a microphone I know quite well because I've used it a lot. And the settings that I've got on it at the moment are everything is switched off, so there's no bass filter and there's no kind of attenuation or anything. So again, this is as is going in at the 1 foot mark. So this is now the 3 foot marker with the MKH60, and to be honest, although maybe a lot of people might use this microphone at like, you know, longer distances, for me, I've used this loads doing interview work at kind of similar distances, and I'd normally use it in instances where I kind of need to reject things quite a lot as well, because it's really good at that, and it's got a brilliant rejection from behind as well. Okay, so that's the MKH60 at 3 foot. So this is the 6 foot marker for the MKH60, and again, as with all the microphones that I'm testing, this distance shouldn't be taxing it at all. As for, you know, the reflections and how much of it they're going to be rejecting, that's a thing where we'll see differences, and also overall sensitivity as well as I start pulling further away from all the microphones. So once again, the MKH60 at 6 foot. So now the 9 foot marker with the MKH60. And again, this distance here, I think the MKH60 is probably good for this type of distance. Me personally, I've never used it at this type of distance, and I wouldn't normally use it at a distance like this in such a reflective environment. But once again, as bad as this environment is, it's the same for all the microphones and all the tests and all the distances as well. So again, as bad as it is, level playing field. So now at the 12 foot marker for the MKH60, and you know, again, this is quite possibly a distance that I wouldn't normally go anywhere near, and especially with these type of acoustics and whatnot, but it's all part of the test. And you know, I'm at the 12 foot marker, and we'll see exactly how this is responding to this distance in this environment. Okay, so I'm now onto the Sennheiser ME6, and I'm at the 1 foot mark here. And interestingly as well, I've not changed the actual gain on the Saramonic between this and the MKH60. So this will be interesting, as well as a direct comparison between both of these microphones as well. Okay, so this is the ME66 at the 1 foot mark. So this is the 3 foot mark now for the ME66. And in all honesty, this is quite possibly the longest distance I would use for recording dialogue in any given situation. Wherever possible, I would steer clear of like going further away than this distance. But that's just a personal thing. A lot of people will stand further away. I try to get in as close as possible. I even come under as well, like if it means getting closer to anybody who's talking. So once again, ME66 at the 3 foot mark. So the 6 foot marker now with the ME66, and once again, this kind of distance, it should be fine with this. Again, very taxing environment, not what I would normally do, this distance or this type of environment, but nonetheless, you know, it's all like comparative and it's a level playing field. So once again, this is the ME66 at 6 foot. So 9 foot now with the ME66, and I don't know if this might be taxing it a bit too much. A little bit about the ME66 from my point of view. There's only two Sennheisers that I would use, and that's either the ME66 or the MKH60. I've used the 416s, the fantastic microphones, but for me, the ME66 is a bit of a kind of like a really good workhorse. I like the fact that it's a little bit brighter as well, which means if you need to do a quick turnaround of something, you don't have to kind of mess with the EQ in post. And if I want something that's a bit more highly focused, I'd go for the MKH60 to use, and you know, for something that I need like more focused and more rejection. Like I say, the 416 is a brilliant microphone. It's very similar to the 60 probably, but yeah, in this instance, this is the ME66, and I'm just finding things to talk about at 9 foot on the 66. So the 12 foot mark now with the ME66. And once again, I just want to say I would never record a microphone this far away from the sound source. But obviously, if you have to do it, you have to do it. And this is a comparative test as well between all four microphones. So once again, the ME66 at 12 foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so to the summary then, and let's get a few things out the way here. It's a terrible space to record anything in, loads of reflections and whatnot, and also there was a lot of sound coming in from the outside as well, which actually progressively got worse into the Sennheiser tests. But at the same time, that was actually a pretty good test of all these mics, because every one of these mics is designed to do what they were doing, which is pick up dialogue in a number of different environments. Every one of these mics is meant to do that. What it is, they've all got a focus cardioid pattern which is designed to pick up dialogue in, say, environments like this, which is very reflective, or if you're outdoors and you're in noisy environments. They're all designed to do that. So in one way, this has been a decent test on that level because it wasn't perfect. I mean, if I do actually get any response to this video, what I'll do the same thing again, but in a professional recording studio. But in that instance, that's kind of proper cherry picking the environment and all the rest of it. But I might do it all again just to see, you know, how the results stack up again, or maybe try the test outside. The only reason why I couldn't try the test outside right now is because I don't have any form of protection or wind protection for either the Sony or the AKG mic. Okay, so that bit aside, how was it? The results and all the rest of it. Right, the AKG was extremely insensitive. When I got it into post, I'd already had to put a huge gain on it. So I've had to bump it up even further in post. And what I'd done, I I kind of used the Sony as me yardstick for level, so everything else was kind of based around the Sony, but I still couldn't gain that AKG to a level that I'd have been dead happy with. But there was a lot in there to do with its tone as well, which I just didn't particularly like at all, and it was extremely noisy in the silence test towards the end, as well as obviously there was noises going on. You could hear the hiss levels across all the microphones, and that was pretty bad. The Sony, again, you know, I wasn't overly impressed with it. It's just one of them things. Maybe just its age and stuff, and the way microphone technology has progressed and what have you. And then the Sennheisers, I love the Sennheisers. I was very surprised though, because I was expecting the ME66 to fall over where the 60 should have really have took over it. And I was quite surprised that some of the distances the ME66 did really well. The other thing there as well between the two Sennheisers is that I put them in at the exact same level. I used the same gain setting on the preamp when they went in. And the thing with that is I had to actually pull the ME66 back a bit from the 60. I had to pull it back considerably against other things realistically, but against the 60 it seemed to be a little bit more, not necessarily sensitive, but its output seemed, you know, a lot hotter or louder, and they were both recorded at 0 as well, so there was no reductions on any of them. So that was very interesting, the differences between the 60 and the 66. Yeah, I think that as far as tonality is concerned, the AKG and the Sony, again, just not my bag, didn't like them. Maybe it's for someone else, most certainly not for me. The 60 is what it is. I love its tone, but the 66 for me, because it's got a bump in the upper mid or mid upper mid, that to me kind of works really well for a number of different scenarios. Yeah, so basically that runs through all that. The preamping, all the mics were going through a Saramonic Smart Rig. The Saramonic Smart Rig is only a £22 preamplifier, which also provides Phantom. Now, before anybody kind of starts thinking, oh, well, you know, what's all this? You're running it through a cheap preamp. I mean, I've been in the audio industry for over 30 years now, and I've kind of used anything worth mentioning. And for preamp and condensers and stuff, I've used a lot of things. And I've got to say right now, the Saramonic preamp is amazing. The Smart Rig is just fantastic. It's only unbalanced when it comes out, but the run from the actual Saramonic to the camera that I was recording on is only a short run, so it doesn't need to be balanced. So an unbalanced, you know, output is fine. The only time when you would want to go unbalanced from, say, the pre to the recorder, whether that's a camera or a separate recording device, is if you're going through long runs and stuff, because the nature of a balance signal, the way it'll like do a phase cancellation from the start to the end to do with trying to reject any RFI or electromagnetic interference and stuff, you don't need it on short runs, or you don't need it if you're not in conditions where you've got like tons of weird electrical things going on around you. Yeah, so again, the whole thing is a level playing field. Also, if you're interested, the start of the video, the introduction, I was using a cheap £8 Chinese, just mass-produced little electric Omni Lav. And for the M-bit now, the mic that I'm on is a Aperture A-Lav as well. What I'll do, if I find any links to the condenser the electric that I used at the start, I'll put it in the link somewhere, and I'll put a link to this one as well if anyone's interested. Also, because I don't know much information, or I haven't got much information about the Sony and the AKG, then if anybody wants to add things into the descriptions, I'd be really grateful to find out more information about them as well. And I think, yeah, that's probably about it. But if anyone's actually lasted this long through the video, thanks very much for watching it. I really appreciate it. And the last words on the whole video is thank you very much for watching the video, and take care. Goodbye now.